So I recently put together this HeartSeeker Rogue build that absolutely shreds through everything in the game. I have cleared up to tier 115 in the pit, and that's without having all my gear fully masterworked yet. This build could easily push up to tier 120 if not past, and this was before they nerfed the monster's health in the pit with the patch coming tomorrow morning. This build absolutely walks through everything in the game currently. I have easily taken out Uber Lilith and the tormented bosses. I will give you a full breakdown on the entire build from the skills used to the Paragon Board, so stick around. Timestamps will be down below. There will be a full Uber Lilith kill at the end if you want to check that out. If you end up enjoying the video, don't forget to leave me a like and a comment. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get right into it. As for the skills used in the build, up top, obviously we use HeartSeeker. This is going to be our main damage dealer. Right here we use Dash. This is our mobility skill. We use Caltrops, a trap skill. This is going to give us tons and tons of damage. We will cover that more in depth. We use Smoke Grenade. This actually gives us a 25% multiplier also, and it dazes enemies. We use Poison Trap. We're basically using this because we have bonuses to damage with Poison Trap. I decided to use Poison Trap over Shadow Step. Some people do use Shadow Step, but I went with Poison Trap. We use Concealment. This is going to be the way that we go pretty much unstoppable. It gives us movement speed. This is going to be the way that we break crowd control and get out of sticky situations. For our specialization, we're going to go with Inner Sight. Obviously, we get resource from this. We're not worried about that. We get a 25% boost to our critical strike chance for 4 seconds when this is up, helping to bring us closer to the cap. All right, now we will go ahead and jump into the gear and aspects really quickly, guys. Cap off your resistances. I'll just scroll through so you can see my stats right here. All right, now into the helmet. We do use the Harlequin Crest Shako on this build. If you don't have it though, that's okay. You can use a helmet just like this, get dexterity, life, cooldown reduction, or armor like right there if you need it. And then go with the aspect on here, the enshrouding aspect. Gain a free dark shroud every 3 seconds when you stand still. And also it gives you more damage reduction per dark shroud. And we're also stacking a bunch of damage reduction with dark shrouds because of our 6 ranks on our chest right here, which we'll go into in just a second. But if you do have the Harlequin Crest, you definitely want to use that. We definitely want the all stats, life. Obviously, we don't worry about the resource generation, but we get the cooldown reduction. And then also we get 20% damage reduction and plus 4 rings to all skills, which obviously is going to boost our HeartSeeker up. Right now, we're sitting at level 15 with our HeartSeeker. So right here into the chest piece, you want to go with dexterity, go with life and ranks to Dark Shroud or a resistance if you need it, kind of like I have right there. You definitely want to get the ranks to Dark Shroud. That's going to boost it to where you get more damage reduction out of it, and it just helps out with the survivability a lot. We will be trying to get dodge chance on pretty much every piece of gear that we can. And then also you can see right there for our other tempering, we have lucky hit up to a 23% chance to stun for 2 seconds. On 2 pieces of gear, we want to get chance to stun, and on 2 pieces of gear, we want to get chance to freeze, which you'll see on our other pieces of gear here in a second. The reason that we want that is we do a lot of damage with this build to crowd controlled enemies, and specifically enemies that are stunned, specifically enemies that are dazed, and specifically enemies that are frozen. So we definitely want to have that for our lucky hit right there with the tempering. And then for the aspect right here, we're going to use concussive strikes. You can see right there, lucky hit, damaging an enemy has up to a 20% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. So that's percent chance to daze, which we have other ways to daze also, but see right there, you deal 20% multiplicative increased damage to dazed enemies, so it's a nice multiplier. As for the gloves, you want to get the attack speed, lucky hit chance. Down below that, you could get crit chance. You could get vulnerable damage. You're going to have lucky hit up to a certain percent chance to make enemies vulnerable. I have that on 2 pieces of gear. I have that right here on my gloves. And then also I have it over here on 1 ring. Now there is an aspect that you can run. I don't want to go with that personally. I'd rather get it on my gear. Also, if you could hit the, lucky hit chance with one of your masterworks, probably most likely on your ring, then you could even boost that up to where you would only need it in like 1 spot if you can get like a 50% chance overall. But right now I have it in 2 spots, so right here on the gloves. For the tempering, you want to go with vulnerable damage and lucky hit chance. Like I said before, either stun or freeze. You want 2 and 2, so I have freeze right here on the gloves. And then you can see right there for the aspect, we have retribution. Distant enemies have a 10% chance to be stunned for 2 seconds when they hit you, and you deal 30% multiplicative increased damage to stunned or knocked down enemies, and we're constantly stunning and knocking down enemies, so that's a nice multiplier boost. Into the pants right here, we want to get the aspect of Umbros. You can see right there, unlucky hit, critical strikes with marksman skills, have up to a 59% chance to grant a free Dark Shroud. Now we also have Dark Shroud that we have points into. We just don't have it on our action bar. This is how we get our Dark Shrouds, and they're constantly up because with this build, Lucky Hit is doing a lot for us, for damage, for, you know, defense, and, you know, HeartSeeker being a basic skill, it has a base Lucky Hit chance of 50%, and we're also boosting that by 9%. So, you know, we have almost a 60% Lucky Hit chance, which is, you know, awesome. So that's also keeping our Dark Shroud up at all times. You want to get life, you get the dodge chance instead of up top. You could get it down for your tempering and have like the total armor right there where the dodge chance is. I just, you know, hit the dodge chance right there, so I got the total armor down below. Definitely want to get maximum life and ranks to HeartSeeker on your pants. Super important. You know, get it as the greater affix if you can. I have it to rank 6. If you hit it on all 3 masterworks, you could go up to rank 8, and obviously that's, you know, more damage for you. For the boots right here, you know, I tried to get the greater affix of movement speed, and then you're going to have to get armor like on one spot. I have it right here on the boots. You want to get dodge chance. And then also, once again, for the tempering, you want to get either freeze or stun. So here is my other freeze. And then also down below that for movement speed, you're going to get the tempering right there, 6.4% movement speed per Dark Shroud. I mean, we have 5 Dark Shrouds, you know, that's almost 7% movement speed per. So, you know, that's a ton of movement speed. We're pretty much movement speed capped on this build. You can see right here for the aspect, we have the frostbitten aspect. Enemies hit by your grenade skills have a chance equal to your critical strike chance to be frozen for 2 seconds. So that's another way that we can freeze. And then also, you get a 25% multiplier, or basically increased critical strike damage against frozen or stunned enemies, and we're always freezing and stunning enemies. So really important, probably the most important stat on the entire build is the chance for HeartSeeker projectiles to cast twice. You see that tempering right there? Unfortunately, I hit that twice with the masterworking. Would have preferred to hit like vulnerable damage or life or even dexterity than that. Hitting it once is okay to ensure the 100%, but you definitely want to get that to 100%. Every time you're using HeartSeeker, you're getting 2 projectiles coming out instead of 1. So you definitely want to have at least 100% on that. Before any masterworking, really quick, over here on one of your swords, I would get that. I would imprint the tempering for the 2 projectiles over here on one of your swords also. And then once you masterwork up your bow, you can just have it right here on your bow because you'll be hitting that 100% chance. And then you can go with what we'll talk about in a second over here. The reason we go with the bow is because in the skill tree, we get more vulnerable damage, a multiplier because of having the bow. And then also the bow has a faster base attack speed. Now we get damage to distant enemies right here on the bow. The crossbow does give you vulnerable damage, which we stack with this build to boost our victimize key passive, which we'll see in a minute inside of the skill tree. But we want the faster base attack speed, and you know, we want the multiplier in the skill tree. It's just better off overall with the bow, so we choose to go with the bow right here. You're going to want to get dexterity, maximum life, vulnerable damage. We obviously get that everywhere that we can. Vulnerable damage for the tempering. And then also, like we talked about, chance for HeartSeeker projectiles to cast twice. And then we want to, on the 2-hander right here, we want to put the Moonrise aspect. You can see right there, damaging an enemy with basic skill grants you 4% attack speed for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So we'll get 20% attack speed right there. Upon reaching maximum stacks, you enter a Vampiric Rage, gaining 160% multiplier for your basic skill damage and 15% movement speed for 10 seconds. So, you know, just tons of damage right there. Definitely want to have that aspect on your bow. Really quickly, in your weapons, you want to get the vulnerable damage right here, the sapphires, and get the rubies for maximum life over here, and then cap your resistances over here. We're going to come into the amulet now. With the amulet, guys, you definitely want to try to get ranks to exploit. You can get ranks to malice or frigid finesse. I would say exploit's the best one. Frigid finesse would be like second, and malice would be third. Try to get it leveled up, obviously, as high as you can, hitting it on the masterworking. On the amulet, you can get a lot of different things. Maximum life, dexterity, you know, whatever you can get that you need on the amulet. I needed resistance, so I have shadow resistance right there. You also want to get vulnerable damage for the tempering and dodge chance once again on your amulet. And then for the aspect up here on the amulet, we're going to go with the adaptability aspect. You can see right there, we're not worried about the top one, but down below, when cast at or above 50 maximum resource, basic skills deal up to 120% multiplicative increased damage. That's a massive boost. We always have full resource because basic skills don't use resource. So right here into our first ring, we want to get attack speed. Try to get attack speed, greater affix. We want to boost our attack speed as high as we possibly can. You definitely want to get vulnerable damage. Like we talked about, the lucky hit chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. Now on your first ring right here, you want to get Caltrop, cooldown reduction. Caltrops is boosting our damage by quite a bit, which we'll talk about in the skill tree. We want to have the cooldown reduction, so we're constantly having Caltrops to throw out there. We're going to be using that quite a bit. And then for the other tempering, you want to get vulnerable damage. For the aspect on your first ring, you're going to go with the rapid loop. Basic skills gain 30%, increased attack speed. Into the second ring, we want to get the aspect of inner calm. Deal 10% multiplicative damage at all times, and then triple that after standing still for 3 seconds. That's the best aspect, in my opinion, that we can get right here. There's other things you could go with, but for damage wise, this is going to be the best. You want to get critical strike chance, because we are trying to boost our crit chance a little bit. We have a base. I think in our stats right now, we're sitting at like 25%, but we have a bunch of things that also boost our crit chance. You'll see in the skill tree in the Paragon board. You want to get crit strike chance, obviously vulnerable damage. We're getting that everywhere we can, and lucky hit chance. Trying to get that lucky hit up as much as possible. You know, when it comes to masterworking, the things that you're trying to hit on your rings, guys, I would say either like the lucky hit chance or the vulnerable damage, or the lucky hit chance to make enemies vulnerable, like we had talked about. You can get like 2 ranks on that. Like on your ring right here, you could drop it over on your gloves and, you know, put something else in its place. For the tempering right here, we want to go with agility cooldown reduction, and that's going to, you know, work out for our agility skills down here. And then we also want to go with vulnerable damage for the tempering. You're going to want to go with the one-handed swords, or you can go with the daggers. It's up to you. Daggers give you a damage to close, and you get critical strike damage from swords, so it's all up to you. But these are basically just stat sticks, so it doesn't really matter. Right here, you want to get dexterity, life, and vulnerable damage on both of them. Try to get greater affixes if you can. Obviously, in the tempering, you're going to want to go with vulnerable damage. And then the second tempering, which is really important, is the caltrops duration. Now, you can see right down here, right there, it says enemies in caltrops take 10% multiplicative increased damage from you, increased by 5% each second, up to 86%. So we want to extend the duration of caltrops as much as we possibly can. And that's why we get that on our 2 one-handers. You can see right there, it lasts for 15 seconds right now. And you can get it even higher than that. You know, I have low rolls. Even though I hit it twice with the masterworking right here, it could be up to 83% right there. And I could have hit it twice over here and had like 83%. So the more duration you get on caltrops is going to turn into more damage to enemies that are standing inside of caltrops. So, and then on the first weapon right here, guys, you want to get the Edge Master's aspect. We're always full on our resource. We'll get a 20% multiplier. Into the other sword, just like we talked about, exact same things: dexterity, life, vulnerable damage, and caltrops duration. And then for the aspect on this one, we're going to go with the aspect of elements, giving us 30% increased damage, multiplicative, to physical damage, which that's what we deal. And that's half on, half off. So for 7 seconds, we get it. 7 seconds, we don't. All right, we will briefly go over the skill tree. Obviously, up top, we're going to take HeartSeeker. We're going to run that back to enhanced right here. When HeartSeeker critically strikes, gain 8% increased attack speed for 4 seconds. Double this amount if the enemy is vulnerable. Obviously, we take that. And then primary, HeartSeeker ricochets to an additional enemy, dealing 75% of the original damage. So gives it like more of an AoE, which is nice. We're going to come down here into our core skills. We're not going to take any core skills, guys. We are going to take Sturdy for close damage reduction, and Siphoning Strikes to, you know, have some heal when we're up close with enemies. Into our agility skills, now we're going to obviously take 1 into caltrops. I'm going to run that over to enhanced, and then over to disciplined for the, you know, critical strike chance, and then, you know, increased damage to enemies standing inside of caltrops. We're going to take concussive with 3 into that for more crit chance. We're going to get trick attacks right here, guys. When you critically strike a dazed enemy, they are knocked down. We're constantly dazing and knocking enemies down because of this. You're going to get 1 into dash and 1 into enhanced. Right here, guys, we're going to take 3 into weapon mastery. You can see right there, that's part of the reason that we use a bow. 12% increased damage to vulnerable enemies, and that's a multiplier, so nice to have that. Into the subterfuge skills, you're going to want to max out Dark Shroud, and then obviously we get ranks from our chest and our Shako. So we're at 15. You can see right there, per Dark Shroud, we're getting 13.6% damage reduction, which is really good. You're going to want to run that back into enhanced, and then, you know, for a chance to not even use our Dark Shrouds when we're hit. And then also countering Dark Shroud. You see right here, this is another way that we get more base crit chance. Over here, we're going to take Smoke Grenade, run it back to countering, giving us basically a 25% multiplier. And you can see right there, it reduces the cooldown of Smoke Grenade because of countering. Down here, we're going to take Exploit. You deal 54% multiplicative increased damage to healthy and injured enemies. You can see right there, healthy is basically above 80%, injured is below 35%, and in the higher pits, this is going to help out quite a bit. So it's a nice damage boost. You'll definitely notice it, especially against the bosses. Malice, 3 points into that, 9% multiplier to all enemies because they're all vulnerable. And then up here, we're also going to get Agile. Using a cooldown increases your dodge chance by 12% for 3 seconds. Right now, we're sitting at a base of like 50% plus this. I mean, we have a pretty high dodge chance. This build is pretty defensive with the dark shrouds, the dodge, and everything else up and going. So, and then with both elixirs up, we have 60k life. Down into our imbuement, we don't take any of the imbuement skills, but we do want to get 3 into frigid finesse because we're always chilling and making enemies frozen. We deal 30% multiplicative increased damage to frozen and 15 to chilled. 1 into adrenaline rush, and then 3 into haste. You can see right there, well above 50% maximum energy, gain 15% increased movement speed. And then for our key passive, this is kind of what the build revolves around and why we stack so much vulnerable damage. We're going to take the victimize key passive right here. You can see on lucky hit, which we have a huge lucky hit chance with HeartSeeker, and we stack lucky hit percent. Dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has up to a 50% chance to cause an explosion, dealing 402% of the original damage to them and surrounding enemies. Victimize's damage is increased by 120% multiplicative of your vulnerable damage bonus. And right now we're sitting at 1647%. So that's massive. And, you know, I don't even have all my gear master worked up. I got quite a few, you know, levels to go on a lot of it. So you can, you know, definitely boost this number probably up to like 2k if you did everything right, and just be doing tons and tons of damage. All right, guys, now into the Paragon board. Like I always say, you know, get the lifts to level 15 for the bigger radius, get them to 21 for more damage, more benefits, you know, really important. And it's easy to level glyphs now. There will be a link in the description to this build over on Mobilytics if you want to check it out that way. Right here in the starter board, we're going to take Ranger for marksman damage, and then also while we're wielding a ranged weapon, you take 10% reduced damage, you know, more damage reduction, you know, get prime for damage and life. We're going to take resilience, all res, and maximum life. The next board that we are going to come into is going to be the exploit weakness board. In this board, we're going to throw chip. We get physical damage, then also physical damage increases the damage an enemy takes from you by 1% up to 10%. Artifice for vulnerable damage, dexterity, and physical damage. You know, obviously we want to get vulnerable damage everywhere we can. The board over here we're going to take is the no witness board. We're going to go ahead and throw pride into this. We get a ton of life up here, having pride, 18% right there, and 22 to dexterity. And then, you know, having pride right here, you deal a 13% increased physical damage to healthy and injured enemies. So there's another multiplier to healthy and injured. And then down here, we're going to go with knowledge for damage and intelligence. The next board that we're going to come into is Lorana's Instinct. We're going to put Devious in here. You can see right there when you hit an enemy with an attack, it applies a crowd controlled effect. They take 2% multiplicative up to 10. Increased damage for 20 seconds, another multiplier. We're getting bonuses around here. We're going to go to tolerance for max res and dexterity. We're going to come up here for Fiant damage after dodging and dexterity. The next board that we're going to come into is the Deadly Ambush board. You deal 23% multiplicative, increased critical strike damage to enemies affected by trap skills, and we're always throwing caltrops in our poison traps, so we're always getting that boost. Right here, we're going to throw Exploit for vulnerable damage, a lot of strength in the radius. When an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. This is the way we make them vulnerable, along with our lucky hit chance, you know, the thing on our ring and our gloves. We're going to run up here, grab Cunning, and then, you know, grab the strength over here. The next board that we'll come into is the Cheap Shot board. Nice multiplier when crowd controlled enemies are around us. We're going to come over here for Safeguard, more damage reduction against elites. Throw in Control right here, 20% multiplier against basically crowd controlled enemies, stunned or frozen 20%. Slower chilled 10. We're always getting the 20 because we're always stunning and freezing enemies. And then the final board that we're going to come into will be the Cunning Stratagem board. And you're going to run over here, guys, and throw Ambush. Enemies affected by trap skills take 10% increased damage from you. And then we're going to grab Lawless right here for dexterity and armor. That's pretty much it for the Paragon board. The Uber Lilith kill will be right now after this if you want to go ahead and check it out. Hopefully this guide has been helpful. If it has, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys.
Duh.